Hard to believe it's been a minute already since we did our first mock draft of the offseason. Free agency has come and gone. I believe it's been 3 weeks since we did mock draft 1.0. Could be right, could be wrong. I think it's around that 3 week mark. But either way, we're back here for our 2.0 mock draft in this 2026 draft season. Andy, JP here with you. JP, we were talking quite a bit before we hit the record button here this evening. Things are going to change obviously a bit compared to our last mock draft, but in general, with certain teams later on, the bigger teams didn't really make as many moves or more or less address what we expected them to address. And some needs in the draft may not change as much as we could have originally anticipated.
Yeah, and actually I was really looking forward to doing this when the Max Crosby trade was supposed to happen because
Yeah.
then we would have been drafted twice for the Raiders, would have changed a lot, and then that whole thing happened, and I don't think any. I think maybe one other team's acquired a first since then. So I think five. We're up to five teams now own multiple firsts. So yeah, just I think the top's going to remain the same, but as we get deeper into it, well, things might get a little different.
And we try to change things up. I believe we did 3 mock drafts last offseason, if my memory serves correct. And there were some where we had the exact same guy going to the same place every time. Jihad Campbell, never forget, we had him going to Tampa Bay at 19. He nearly fell out of the first round. Philly
Yeah.
came and swooped and picked him up. And I think, unfortunately, he didn't really do much his rookie year. But hey, we still have those feelings. And Tampa's a team that we felt needed a linebacker. But as we look at the draft board and where we are situated, JP mentioned that trade, the Crosby trade didn't end up happening. That would have been really fun to see. Okay, what is Vegas going to do with picks 1 and 14, 2 picks in the top 15, including number 1 overall? That would have been great. But Vegas is on the clock. I'm going to take the odds. JP's going to take the evens this time. We're switching it up from our first edition of the mock draft, and nothing's going to change. Fernando Mendoza is still a Las Vegas Raider. This is the easiest pick we're going to make in however many mock drafts we are able to do until draft season. Draft's officially less than a month away, JP. I was going to send you that the other day that we're exactly a month away from being on the clock, but it's under a month now until we get going. I don't really know what needs to be said here. It's cut and dry. The Raiders traded Geno Smith to the team with the next pick, the New York Jets. So if anything, now that the quarterback room is as clear as can be, there was never a doubt in the first place, but Vegas made it that much more solidified by trading their veteran who was only there for 1 season.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I don't think there was much consideration for New York here unless they were somehow going to offer the biggest haul in the history of football for Fernando Mendoza to move up to one. But at no point in time did I ever think they were considering going with a quarterback. Matter of fact, if Matt Hendricks watches this, I told him like 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks in advance of free agency that I thought Geno was going to end up on the Jets. He told me he's ending up in Minnesota. Clearly, that did not
Oh,
happen.
I
That
would
was
have
a
loved
pipe.
that as a Bears
Yeah,
fan. That would have
yeah,
been fantastic.
I know that was a pipe dream of Matt's. But anyways, I believe last time I actually can't recall. Last time I think we had Reese going to the Jets.
We did. So I
Okay,
was going to
well
ask you, is
then
it Reese again or is it David Bailey?
it's going to be Reese. While I think, and I think I think I'm going to spiel on the same thing I said last time. I think Bain's the better player. I think Bain should be the pick here, but unfortunately, I think they like the ceiling that you can potentially get out of Reese, and Reese is more of a 3-4 guy. He's going to be a stand-up edge. He's not going to put his hand in the ground very often, and I think he fits this system as the 3-4 edge a lot better than Bain would. But I do think that when Aaron Glenn gets fired a year from in January, that whoever comes in will have wished that they took Ruben Bain.
Yeah, I mean, this is a repeat conversation of what we had a few weeks ago. Bain's probably not probably. I think he is the best edge rushing pass rusher in this class, but metrics and testing and everything else, stuff that's not game tape related, is what's going to bounce him out of this top three and not have him be the first defensive player taken in this draft. If you are really deciding between Reese and Bailey, you really could go either way. I don't know how you feel. I don't have a preference one way or another, in my opinion. I guess Reese is more versatile. He can play in the box. He can be a linebacker and also get out on the edge, whereas Bailey's mainly an edge. I'm not super high on David Bailey, which is what I'm going to have the Cardinals do here at 3. Once again, for those who have watched enough of our mock drafts, this isn't always a what we would do. This is a what we think will happen combined with what we will do, a little bit of both. I've seen a lot of negative stuff on David Bailey online that he's not this top 5 caliber guy and and all these things. And I know Texas Tech's getting a lot of love in the draft this year, and rightfully so. They were a team in the college football playoff a season ago. Guys like Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez are going to be picked in a good range and are going to be impact players in the NFL. But I don't know if Bailey's truly a top three prospect. We keep going back to Ruben Bain. He's the better player than these two guys, but that just is not the consensus among the NFL and the general managers picking in the top five and in the top three.
Yeah, I think people's opinions on Bailey are either you got him in as a top two edge, not assuming you're counting Reese as a linebacker. You have Bailey as your edge one or two, or you're on the complete opposite side of the spectrum and you have Bailey down at edge 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range. I'm actually in the middle of that, contradictory to what I said. I got Bailey at 3 right now. Not that it's a huge difference, but everything I see, it's literally Bailey or Bain or Bain Bailey, and then insert prospect. Or they've got Bailey down at their 6th, and he's barely worth a first, if he's even worth a first. I'm not. This Cardinals pick has been giving me nightmares since
Yeah.
before free agency. I have no idea what they're gonna do. You could have gone Bailey, you could have gone Styles, you could have gone Bain. Hell, you could have overdrafted Maui Go or Fano, and I would have thought that that was the right pick.
They just need so much. And they made the decision that it's going to be Brissett and Minshew in their quarterback room this year. So they're punting on the season. The year one of Mike LaFleur, they're punting. I mean, you can't expect. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was fine last year. He actually played all right when filling in for Kyler Murray. That they kept him throughout the rest of the way. I'm not here to bash on Jacoby Brissett. He's fine, but I just don't think you can expect people and other teams to take you seriously when that's what you're choosing to do with the quarterback spot. I get that this is a weak quarterback draft, and Dante Moore going back to Oregon really messes that up. Either way, Arizona wouldn't have taken Moore because Moore would have gone number 2 to the Jets if he was in this draft. So if anything, the only way this affects Arizona is they would have had their pick of the litter, the best defensive player on the board. They would have set the tone. The real draft would have started here at 3 with them, but that's not the case. And Moore electing to go back to college. JP, you're here at number 4 with Tennessee. I took Bain in the last draft, which you and I are probably more than okay with, but when trying to get into the mind of draft experts and GMs, that's probably seen as an overdraft. Do you still have Bain here at 4, or are we seeing a mix up? Is Tennessee going somewhere else?
I've this is another pick. This just range is just disgusting to be picking in. Honestly, from like Arizona through Cleveland, it's just a gross range to pick from. I know there's been a lot of talk of Jeremiah Love to the Titans. There's been a lot of Bain to the Titans. I've seen Sonny Styles go in the top 4 so many
Yeah.
times. Um, I think the reality of it is, even though Love is probably what they're gonna do, I'm gonna shift away from that. I'm gonna open it up exactly how we opened it up on the last one. I'm gonna give him Bane. If we're gonna sit here and be honest with ourselves, this is a guy who, prior to people freaking out about his arms, right as we're going into the college football playoff, this is a guy being talked about as the number one player in the draft. The if the Raiders hypothetically traded number one, it was likely to be for whoever was coming up to draft Ruben Bain. You get the guy at 4. I feel like we see this yearly. Someone drops because of something stupid and they become a stud. Laramie Tunsil ripped a bong mask. Guys,
Yeah.
guys, an all pro.
One of the
Jalen
most famous
Carter.
pictures in draft history.
Jalen Carter. I'm not going to condone what he did. It was bad, and he fell for character issues. And now we're looking at an all-pro kind of player. I just feel like this is something that happens all the time. And granted, not saying Baines was off the field, but there's always some dumb reason that Kyle Hamilton they said was too slow. He wasn't athletic enough, and now he's one of the best safeties in the league. I don't care about Baines' arms. He's an elite run disruptor. For every power move that fails, he has 6 counters that he's going to beat you with. Ruben Bain's an absolute stud, and this is one of those outliers that I'm willing to look past. Bain's a stud, and Tennessee should be thrilled to get him at 4.
Dude, I watched some of his drills from pro day and I was blown away again. I mean, just the way he's just such a good athlete. And
So
this is one
so
of those,
unreal.
it's just don't overthink it, man. And this is I think we're gonna look back, if this is the top 4, both New York and Arizona are gonna be scratching their heads in 2 years thinking, man, we really overthought getting the best blue chip defensive prospect in the draft at a premier spot. I think this is a home run pick for Tennessee. I'm all for it. I think this is exactly what they should do. And unfortunately, this is definitely not like what we had last year with our between our first and second edition of the mock drafts. our top five is going to be exactly the same as what we had pre-free agency. Caleb Downs, I'm going to take here to New York at number 5. You just mentioned Kyle Hamilton. This is the best safety prospect we've had to draft since Hamilton. And Hamilton fell for, as you mentioned, being too slow. People worried about him. Caleb Downs is the real deal, folks. This guy is as legit as it gets at the safety position. And I just cannot see a world. New York's secondary is putrid. It's really bad. And I cannot see a world where they pass on a guy who can automatically become one of, if not the best defensive player on their defense in a matter of no time. If he's here at 5, they're sprinting to the podium to take him. I can very much see him rocking the blue and red next season out in MetLife.
Yeah, I think last time we did this, we debated whether or not Styles was an option here, and I think they put all that to rest in free agency. They re-signed Micah McFadden, and then they took our it's Chicago, Mr. Tremaine Edmonds, on
Yep.
a wealthy contract, a little rich
They
for
paid him
me
a
on that
lot.
one. They
Yeah, they
did.
paid him a
They
lot.
did pay him a lot. I think they paid him like 36 mil, not fully guaranteed. I don't know what was fully. 24 of that was maybe fully. But so they put the linebacker stuff to sleep, at least for the present tense. So I think Downs is going to fill a big hole. And like you talked about, I mean, top 3 guy in the draft here, elite safety prospects. So
Yeah, an instant upgrade with everything that New York's added between free agency and now. So our top 5 remains the same. When I was picking as Cleveland at number 6 a few weeks ago, I went with Carnell Tate on the offensive side of the ball. We have this debate of they're going to need a receiver and they're going to need a tackle. They're losing all 5 of their starting offensive linemen in free agency. That's never happened before. They have a lot of places to upgrade on the offensive side of the ball. Where do you have them leaning here at 6, 3 weeks later?
yep. So this one I'm going to change up. As time has gone on, I've started to dive into the offensive tackle film, and while I still think this player is going to be better suited as a guard or center, as PFF is kindly showing us, and as Andy mentioned, the entire offensive line is open for grabs for Cleveland. I think that Spencer Fano is should be the pick here. It allows you the versatility that if he busts at tackle, you can move him inside. Like we said, they need everything on the line. I know they addressed one of the tackle positions in free agency. I can't remember who they went out and got, but I know they addressed it with someone. It was maybe I don't remember who it was.
I'll look it up.
Uh,
Yeah.
but anyways, I know they addressed it, went out and got someone. So Titus Howard, that's who it was
Yeah.
in the trade with the Texans, and then they got oh, that's right, they signed Elton Jenkins too. So, anyways, they've addressed center unless Jenkins is going to move back to guard. They got one of their tackle positions. I think Fano is. I'm not going to argue with anyone whether Fano or Maui Go is the better tackle in this class, but I think just as a lineman, that's the 1 and 2. And I think Fano gives you more versatility to play center, guard, or tackle. And I think they're going to go with Fano here because they want their pick of the litter on the offensive line rather than their pick of the litter from the receivers.
Yeah, this is a good receiver class. And we mentioned things are going to shift later, right? Some of these teams in the teens and in the early 20s, who JP and I said, whether we had them taking a receiver or not, we had a big run on receivers in our first mock draft 3 weeks ago. The receiver market's changed a lot. We've seen trades, we've seen free agency additions. A lot of things have changed. So this free agency class could open up a bit more at the back end of the first round where they feel more comfortable doing this. I think Cleveland brought back Tevin Jenkins as well. Not
They
saying that's going
did.
to be any sort of addition, but at this rate, I think he's going to have to start on the interior if he's
Zion
any bit of
Johnson
healthy.
too. That was who they
Okay.
signed.
So then this would hypothetically round out. It's not a good offensive line, but it would round out an NFL offensive line for Cleveland in 2026. The Commanders at 7. We had them take Sonny Styles in the last draft. I'm also going to switch this up. And Jeremiah Love is not going to fall anymore. I'm going to have him here at 7. And you look at, I'm not saying, oh, I'm having him go here because he would have fallen after that. That doesn't matter. That's not why Washington would have taken him. You do look at it, though. The Saints added Travis Etienne, and the Chiefs went out and paid Kenneth Walker. So those two teams made considerable payments to marquee running backs in the free agent market. If Love doesn't go here, he's out of the top 10. And then it's a really, who knows? Someone would probably trade up to go get him, if we're being honest, unless teams are okay with letting him free fall. But for his sake, if he doesn't go here to Washington at 7, it is a massive free fall. And I know the Commanders need a lot of things, but we've seen this in drafts before. Bijan Robinson a few years ago, with Atlanta and teams that'll go in the top 10, even when they need other things more. I mean, we saw Ashton Genty last year with Vegas. Was that the right decision? Probably not. But teams, we know they have the tendency to do this in the top 10 if a guy of this caliber is available to them in that slot. The running back room right now for Washington is not anything special. I know they have Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. They signed Rashad White. They have Jerome Ford. That doesn't really do anything for me. I know Croskey-Merritt was a darling last year, seventh round pick out of Arizona, only played one game due to eligibility reasons his final year of college. And in the fantasy world, we're obviously a fantasy football podcast. Everyone was all over Bill from the jump, and he didn't really. He had some good games, but I don't think he strung together the consistency that they want. This solves a big issue for them on the offensive side of the ball. It's another skill player for Jaden Daniels to work with, and I do like the fit for Washington here at 7, and it secures Love still going in the top 10.
Yeah, I think Washington has a ton of holes, especially on the offensive side. They also have holes on the defensive side, though that's where they spent a bulk of their money. This is one of those situations where I think they've convinced themselves that they're in a position to take a running back. I actually wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. I don't think Love makes it past 7. They spent big on the edges with Caleb on Chason, Odafe Owe. And then the reason that I would be out on Styles going here is they paid Leo Chenal $25 million. I don't think
Yep.
they're going to spend on a premium linebacker. Uh, then the biggest hole that comes to mind is a wide receiver or a running back. I really do think wide receivers are in play here, but like I said, I think they've talked them into themselves that this team's good enough to compete, and all they need is a running back. So I think Jeremiah Love makes sense here.
So the Saints at 8, JP, they mentioned they paid ETN, but they could still use another playmaker on the offensive side of the ball for Tyler Shug entering his second year. Is that where the Saints go? Do they stay on the offensive side of the ball at pick number 8?
Yeah, it's really tough because they signed premium pass catcher Noah Fant, so I'm really not sure how they're going to go about if they're really going to address the pass catcher room. They signed an elite running back and Ty Chandler, and then they also signed that Travis Etienne guy. But no, in all seriousness here, I really think they should draft Jordan Tyson. I think it makes so much sense to bring Jordan Tyson in. His play style with Olave's vertical threat, it would be so beautiful to watch. The reality is, I think Chris Olave shares something in common with Carnell Tate in an Ohio State logo. I think there's going to be some nepotism per se based on that logo alone. And I think they bring in Carnell Tate. Now, I don't think Tate's a bad prospect. I just think that him and Olave both have that vertical. While even though Olave's is more so like beat you on a deep post, and Tate's is more just throw it down there and I'll go get it. I think their play styles, their route running capabilities are very similar. Uh, and I would be disappointed in this pick if they went Tate, but it's what I think is going to happen.
It makes too much sense. The Ohio State connection's everything. It can you can just envision him in those colors. You really can. It makes all the sense in the world. I had a feeling that's where you were going to go with the Saints at number 8. Whether it is Tyson or Tate, they need another receiver. Chris Olave gets hurt too much. He can't play a full season. We know this. And outside of him, it gets really thin at receiver in New Orleans, especially after they traded Shaheed midseason to Seattle last year. They don't have a lot to work with there. So they can go get a really good player at a premium in the top 10, blue chip prospect, all the verbiage and all the key jargon that you're looking to hear from us applies here to Tate at 8. We have another repeat pick here at 9. We're going back-to-back receivers. Jordan Tyson, I'm going to have go here to Kansas City. If it's not broken, don't fix it. We saw what the Chiefs did in free agency, trying to add on the margins. They brought in Kenneth Walker, which I was shocked they paid Walker that much money. Not
A
that
lot of
Walker,
money.
well, I also don't think Walker's worth that. I definitely think that is based on end of season hype and what he was able to do in playoffs. 14 mil a year is no joke for that. I mean, good for him. Never gonna hate on a player for getting his money, but I would have said maybe he's worth 10 at the very most. So definitely a little bit of a end of season Super Bowl inflation tax on the free agency case for Walker. So that puts them out of play of a running back. And how often we had this exact conversation 3 weeks ago in our first mock draft, how often are the Chiefs in a position like this to go grab a premium player like Jordan while having Patrick Mahomes on their roster? I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to have many more opportunities like this to go get a legitimate guy. Rashee Rice, who knows with his future? We've talked about Xavier Worthy at large on this podcast about how we don't view him as, he's got to a pretty low ceiling at this point. He's only capable of doing so much. So Tyson's a home run pick. He fits great in Kansas City, and nothing changes from our opinions in the first mock draft.
Yeah, I think this is another hard pick to go with. Jordan Tyson makes so much sense, yet the Chiefs, which is weird to say, feels like they have so many holes. They could go edge, they could go tackle, they could go anywhere on the offensive line. But I think the clear message that was sent with the free agency class was we are trying to win now. The offense was pretty shit last year. We're going to try and fix that now. Jordan Tyson for the next 5 years with Mahomes would be just unreal. And his skill set is very different than Rashee Rice's, and I think that's what makes the fit so well if Rice is even able to play. So I absolutely love this pick.
Yeah, you make the argument offensive line. I think my argument of not taking an edge is we've dropped a tier. If you look at the available edges that would have been on the board for Kansas City in this spot, I just don't know if I can justify taking any of those guys in the top 10. I don't think that's worth it. Maybe you make an argument on defensive back, right? Because of them trading Trent McDuffie, but they have another pick in this first round that they can use later on and they can afford to do that with. I agree with you. There's many options they can go here, but Jordan Tyson's as good as it gets at number 9, and I love that fit. So Cincy at 10, we had them go defense last time with Mansour Delane. All of a sudden, JP, the defensive board gets even bigger for the Bengals in our second mock draft.
Yeah, another team who did just about nothing in free agency. They signed Boye Mafe and Jonathan Allen, but I don't even know what we're calling Jonathan Allen at this point in his career. Boye
Old.
Mafe, yeah, old, right? Boye Mafe, that was actually an interesting one. He just had absolutely a great year in Seattle, so that was a great sign. The question is, they spent a second round pick on a linebacker last year. So is Sonny Styles still the play here? Are they going to overdraft um, Thieneman? Are they going to go with a D tackle here? Is it safety? I really don't know. I have no idea. But I'll tell you one thing I do know. The Bengals regime has consistently bet on guys who are freak athletes. It need to be developed. And for that reason, I'm giving them Sonny Styles.
Sure.
I think Styles has a lot to develop. We clearly saw what kind of athlete he was at the combine. This pick just has Bengals written all over it. And then in 10 years, hell, 10 years, in 4 years, we'll talk about, oh my God, I cannot believe the Bengals drafted Styles in the first round because they were unable to develop him. And that'll be another bust tag placed on the Bengals.
Yeah, and the year after they took Shamar Stewart, who's widely viewed as a project, and he had a horrible, horrible, horrible rookie season. Yeah, I think we're looking at traits. We're looking at just pure athleticism. We had Styles at 5 in our first mock draft, so we could definitely warrant him going at 10. Since he needs everything on the defensive side of the ball, I don't care what they did in free agency. It's they need a true young generational defensive player to balance out everything they have on the offensive side of the football. And Styles, I guess, is the play here at 10. Works for me. It's one of their team needs. Secondary also would have been nice. I mean, you can make the argument for Delane or why am I blanking out? McCoy. Is that the kid, Jerron McCoy from
Yeah.
Tennessee, the other corner? Terrell as well as there. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, and they'll go with Styles, and that works for me as well at 10. We had McCoy go to Miami at 11 in our last mock. Miami could definitely still use some secondary help. I'm going to switch it up though because their offensive line is pretty bad, and they didn't really do much to address that in free agency. I'm going to give them Francis Mauigoa here out of Miami. A bit of a different spot for him, and similar to someone we talked about. Could play on the inside as well. Either way, we talked. Eric John Sullivan's the new general manager out there. Jeff Hafley is the head coach, defensive coordinator from Green Bay coming over. They want to get big. They want to get physical on the inside. I think a tendency and a common trait of the Mike McDaniel Miami Dolphins is that they were a soft team. They weren't physical, and they need to get bigger, faster, and stronger. And Mauigoa would be a great addition to their offensive line. At 11, a guy who could do many things. Once again, defensive side of the ball would be nice, but I'm going to switch it up here and have them take a tackle.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do. I think Maui Goa would be an excellent pick here before they get their franchise quarterback next year. I don't think the faith in Malik Willis really extends beyond this year. I don't remember the exact details of the contract, but I know that it was like 50 guaranteed or something like that. It'll be interesting though with Waddle gone now. Does are we looking at potential wide receiver here? Maybe I think I would probably skip on the wide receiver here. but it's certainly in play. I think Maui Go makes sense and fills a big need for him.
Dallas at 12, they have a lot of options now. We had this conversation in our last mock draft of they need someone to get to the quarterback and they need help in their secondary badly with picks 12 and picks 20. They don't get Max Crosby as of right now. It appears Crosby's going to stay in Vegas. We're at this point, it's March 25th. I guess you can never say never. We see trades during the draft all the time. AJ Brown, who's could be dealt once again from Philly, was traded earlier on in his career from Tennessee to Philly during the draft, and that all came crashing down. So we're not out on trades yet, but we're just going to assume Dallas is out on Crosby. They're going to stick at 12 and 20. JP, if they need a DB and either an edge or a linebacker, they're in a great position to add someone impactful in their secondary here at the 12th pick.
Yeah, prior to free agency, I was absolutely all over that they were going to go somewhere on the boundaries with a corner. Then they did two moves that I don't think moves the needle at all, but they signed Kobe Durant and Darion Kendrick, who aren't guys that are going to move the needle for you, but they feel like CB3s that you're gonna try and get away with based off your scheme. You already have your CB1 in Deron Bland. That's got an asterisk on it because I'm not saying Deron Bland's a CB1. I'm just saying that's what they're paying him. They're paying him that kind of money. So unfortunately, I don't think that CB's in play. But then they go out and they get Rashawn Gary, and that kind of takes away what I was gonna do on the T line. I don't think they're gonna do anything at linebacker, and then safety would have been something, but they paid Jalen Thompson. So now I'm all out of options. So what am I going to do? I'm going to circle back all the way to the beginning, and I'm going to give them Mansour Delane. I don't have Delane as my CB1, but I think he's kind of consensus CB1. You're getting a guy who just had his best year of football coming over from Virginia Tech to LSU, and he played his best football in the SEC. I think this again puts what I said about Kendricks and Durant to rest, and now you're getting your actual CB1, and Bland can go back to being a useful ball hawk on the outside or on the opposite side of Delane.
Yeah, I like this pick. And the reason why I brought up secondary, even though they made the aforementioned additions that you brought up, it still doesn't feel like they have true answers out there. Those are guys who can fill spots, but how long term, how is that going to equate to long term success? You need more solidified guys out on the boundaries. And I like that in Delane. Him and McCoy are very much 1 and 2 for everyone's board at the quarterback position, no matter how you flip it. And Delane can step in day one and be an immediate impact guy for the boys. Their first of 2 first-round picks. This will be our final pick that we make before we hit a quick intermission on the Just Beavin podcast. I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball here. This is a guy who we did not have go in the first round in our first mock draft. I'm not saying this is the pick I would make if I'm LA, but I can see this being a move they go for, seeing as they have a lot of answers through the trade market, free agency, and existing guys on the roster. I know wide receiver has been a commonly talked about position for the Rams, but I'm not going to have them take that here. They're going to need to move on from Matt Stafford eventually. It's not quarterback, but they're going to need to move on from Stafford eventually, and they're going to need to make sure they have a young offensive line that is ready to roll and a guy who a lot of scouts love in this draft class that has such high upside as a tackle is Monroe Freeling from Georgia. This kid is huge. He's 6'7", 315 pounds. And I think this would be a good spot. We mentioned him briefly in our last mock draft of tough to kind of find a spot for him as he would probably need to develop. He's a bit raw in terms of what he can do right away. But a spot like LA, that would be a position where he could thrive if he gets a year to kind of sit and learn and develop under some of the great minds on that offensive staff.
Yeah, I think last time we gave him Thieneman, if that's, I believe that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
They that was going off of them, assuming they didn't re-sign Cameron Curl,
And they
which
signed
they
him the
did.
next day.
Yep, they literally signed him the next day. Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. Freeling, it's a developmental guy here. What you see is not what you're going to get with him. That's the hope, at least. You're getting a very raw prospect. You're getting a freak athlete who's a giant. Just needs some refinery and some fine tuning. And what better place to sit than on a Super Bowl contending team where they're able to take a pick like this and develop a guy for when Matthew Stafford's out of here and you got a new quarterback who needs to be protected. I think Freeling, honestly, he may come in and compete for a starting spot day one, depending on how he looks in camp. But I think this pick makes sense.
13 picks in the books. And as we talked about, this is a lengthy episode, so we need to take a break or two to reset the wheel and get things grooving after this intermission. It's pick 14. The Ravens are going to be on the clock here on the Just Beavin podcast. Prior to our intermission, bit of a surprise pick for the Rams, taking a guy who we didn't have going in our first mock draft a few weeks ago, Monroe Freeling, the tackle out of Georgia. It presents Baltimore on the clock for JP here at 14, a pick that just a couple of weeks ago they didn't have anymore because they traded it to Vegas as part of the Max Crosby deal. Baltimore, once again, back in the first round. They will keep 14, and they're going to make a pick here.
Yeah, the Crosby thing really was going to alter everything. Then they went out and signed Hendrickson, so it still kind of has. I think edge was a huge need for this team, even though they were in a weird spot. Someone like Mesidor could have made sense here. I think a receiver obviously makes sense here. But with those needs patched, I am stuck between oh boy, Oliva Vega or Caden Proctor in this spot. I think Proctor is a riser. I guess I don't know what you count a riser as, but from late first to now, I think he's going to
Yeah,
be drafted in the teens. Yeah, in the mid. I'm going to give them uh, the Vega simply because I think they need guard more than they need tackle. Although I do want to preface, I'm going to have Proctor as a guard in my final position
interesting.
rankings. I think he fits better as a larger guard. But with that said, Vivega is the best interior offensive lineman in the class. This guy is actually a world class tackle. Penn State linemen don't miss very often either, and I think this solves a big problem for them both in the run game with Derrick Henry, and now Lamar has a great pass blocker in front of him. So I think this pick makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they need to get better in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I mean, like you mentioned, that's why they tried trading for Crosby, making a big swing. Olivier Vavega went at 21 to Pittsburgh in our initial mock. So going to the rival here in Baltimore at 14, I really have no issues with this pick at all. I think it works, and everyone's going to benefit from it. You can never say no to adding on the interior. Plus, you lose Tyler Linderbaum in free agency to the Raiders, obviously not the same position, but still on the interior and trying to be an anchor and help out that run game with Derrick Henry. This is a great addition. This is a guy who's going to step in, start day one, and hopefully be an anchor for this offensive line. Tampa Bay here at 15, we have them take an edge in Cassius Howell. In our first mock draft, I'm going to have them take an edge here as well, but we're going to go in a different direction. We talk about rising. This guy has risen to an extent as well. I'm going to have Akeem Mesidor go here out of Miami. And I really think this is the ceiling of how high he could go. The talent is there. He's going to be 25 years old by the time of the draft. I do believe, if my memory serves correct, that presents a cap as to where he'll go. I think I'm going to stand firm on this. I'd be stunned if he goes higher than 15, but we've seen crazier things happen before. I truly believe this is the highest Mesidor will go, and this is a great addition for Tampa, who, as we mentioned in our first mock draft, desperately needs help at getting edge rushing to the quarterback.
Yeah, I think this. I think Mesidor makes sense purely off of. While I do think they're going to go edge, Mesidor, like you mentioned, is one of those guys who truly can only go to a certain amount of teams because it's teams who are competing now. You're only getting the guy for one contract. You're getting a very good guy, but you're only getting him for
Yep.
one contract. This to me would be like Todd Bowles' last ditch effort at trying to keep his job here. They just lost to the division after starting 6-2. This really seems like a last ditch effort for him. But I think Mesidor, given the fact that we just explained, I think it makes sense here.
Jets at 16, one of just a couple of teams in this draft to hold multiple first round picks, having them go with Arvell Reese. Do you have them now on the offensive side of the ball in the middle of the first round?
I do have them on the offensive side of the ball, and this may be a controversial take, and I don't think the guy I'm going to select is better. I just think that this is what they are going to do. I think Lemon scared a lot of people off at the combine. Give me Omar Cooper Jr. here.
Wow.
I think his skill set matches Garrett Wilson's very, very, very well. I think there's a good offensive line, a good foundation. Even though they lost AVT Elijah Vera Tucker, I still think this offensive line is a great foundation. I think Geno Smith still can play some solid football. I think everything about the Raiders was abysmal last year, including Geno himself. He played like absolute dog water, but I'm not as concerned about Geno as other people. I think this offense could be sneaky all right, depending on the play calling. But at a ceiling cap, the talent is very limited. But I really think Omar Cooper fits well next to Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, wide receiver is the theme. I think this is the exact way we had it going in our first mock draft. I forget which receiver was it. Boston that we had at 16. It was
Yeah,
a receiver,
Boston.
a receiver at 16. The combo of front seven edge rusher with a receiver makes a lot of sense. Isla Cooper Jr. A lot of highlight reel grabs, played in a lot of big time games as well. That carries some weight, right, in this draft process as well. Not just obviously how good of a football player you are, how good of a prospect you are, how you project athletically is important, but some scouts and organizations really like to dive into a winning pedigree. And you just saw him be a part of a team that rattled off a perfect season and won the national championship. So that's definitely going to carry some weight for him and his stock into this draft. Firmly believe Cooper's a first rounder. I don't see a world where he's out of the first round at this point in the class. 17 and Detroit. You brought this guy's name up a couple of picks ago, a riser in the draft. Detroit has a need on the offensive line. Taylor Decker is no longer there. He is a free agent. Was thinking Caden Proctor between him and Blake Miller. I think Proctor makes more sense at this point in time. A quote unquote, as you mentioned, riser in the draft from mid to late 20s to into the top 20. And his pro day was today. I know Ryan Poles, we're Bears fans, so we're going to speak on Bears a lot of times too. He was in attendance. He was there. It's interesting to see the reactions from fans of him watching Proctor's drills. But I think Proctor's a guy, you know what you're getting out of him. Alabama offensive linemen, you know the book on a majority of them once they enter the draft. Guys who can step in right away, are winners, the physical build and just the overall traits, a very toolsy guy in Proctor, a really good athlete. And as a Bears fan and knowing how he could potentially develop even more in Detroit, not an awesome feeling knowing that he could be the future blindside blocker of the Lions.
Yeah, I think you hit on everything. The versatility to play guard and tackle, elite athlete, and I think this is his floor where you're getting him, and his floor is worth every bit of a first round pick.
Minnesota, we're staying in the north at 18. We had them go safety in the last go round. Thieneman was off the board. We had them take Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Both of those safeties are here, JP. Are they sticking in that position in the secondary?
Oh yeah, didn't even hesitate. We got the moment we moved on to the next team, I instantly clicked Thieneman. I don't think there's even a doubt in anyone's mind that if Thieneman or EMW is on the board here, they're getting one of them. If both are on the board, I think Thieneman is the. I mean, the pro comp at his ceiling has to be Harrison Smith. Now he gets to learn from Harrison Smith. I don't even got to talk about it. Thieneman's an absolute beast. His combine was unreal. You're getting an elite guy all the way down at 18.
Yeah, we raved a lot about him in our first mock draft. So if you want to dive even deeper into that, make sure to go check out that video along with the others on our page here. Yeah, this is nightmare fuel for Bears fans and the rest of the NFC North. A true game changer in every stretch of the imagination. His tape speaks for itself, and he somehow became an even more enticing prospect running sub 4.4 at the combine and just doing everything exceptionally well in that group. This pick right here, Carolina at 19. This was our shocker of the first round when we went through this last time. You took Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker out of Texas Tech. I'm not going with that here. I'm going on the offensive side of the ball. And this is a very commonly mocked guy, especially post free agency to Carolina. They drafted Tedero McMillan in the top 10 last year for Bryce Young. Fantastic rookie season, was the offensive rookie of the year. And I think we're going to go one layer deeper in this pass catching group. They're going to add Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. We just talked about a guy from Oregon and Dylan Thieneman who had an unreal combine. I'll talk about a guy in Kenyon Sadiq who had just as unreal of a combine at his position. What was it? The fastest 40 by a tight end in 20 years. I mean, just what
Yeah.
he was able to do was unreal. I know Dave Canales will be licking his chops in every which way possible to try and get his hands on Sadiq. This would be a great pick for the Panthers.
Yeah, unfortunately for those who falsely believed in um, Jatavian Sanders, this would put a run to that. as it should. Jatavian Sanders was never that good of a prospect. Yeah, I think Sadiq makes sense here. You're trying to see what you got in Bryce. Uh, Unfortunately, you whiffed on your last wide receiver in the first, so go somewhere else on the pass catching portion of the ball. Go get Sadiq, like we just talked about, elite athlete. Could improve on the blocking side of things, but you're not drafting him to do that. You're drafting him to be a safety blanket for Bryce Young, a guy you can give the ball to, you can hand it off to, and you're getting a good one in Sadiq.
Off the board is the best tight end, and there's a pretty marginal gap between Sadiq and who he's even the number two rated tight end prospect according to
Bryce
PFF.
Stowers would be my guess.
Yeah, and he's a solid prospect, but it's a pretty reason the gap is pretty large in between Stowers and Sadiq. Back to back Oregon Ducks off the board. We're at pick 20 with Dallas. Mansour Delane went there at 12. JP, are we doubling up on the defensive side of the ball for the boys?
Yeah, like I had mentioned with the previous pick, they address a lot of the defense. I'm really not sure where to go at this point. I know safety is still kind of a hole, but they paid Jalen Thompson money. So I gave a surprise pick in this range last time with Carolina. If the board falls exactly like this, I'm gonna give another surprise pick. You got George Pickens on the franchise tag. You only get him one more year. Why not stack the offense here? I'm gonna go with Makai Lemon.
Wow.
I'm gonna go with Makai Lemon to Dallas. This got Jerry World written all over it. 40 points a game. What can Schottenheimer do with this? You kind of ignore the defense. I mean, you don't fully ignore it. You spent a lot of money there, but now you bring in a premium talent at the corner position, and you just kind of roll with whatever you got at linebacker. You bring in a veteran like they did last year with Logan Wilson, something along those lines. You stack the offense. Pickens can walk next year. You get Makai Lemon. You get your slot. CD can go back to running his route tree. And yeah, I think there's a lot of good vertical threats. Obviously, they're nowhere near as good as George Pickens, but I think there's a lot of field stretchers in this draft, and I think you can find one of those later in the draft to replace Pickens, like actual skill set next year. But you bring in Makai Lemon who can play in the slot. And in this offense, I mean, we talked about it last season being one of the most fun in the league. I mean, add Makai Lemon, it would be the most fun in the league.
So now in both of our mock drafts, we've had that's such a Dallas Cowboys pick at 20. I had the evens last time. I took a Key Mesidor, a pick that made a ton of sense. If the board fell that way, obviously Mesidor not here at 20. I took him at 15 to Tampa Bay. This would be such a Cowboys pick. And even when they took CD, I think they took CD in a time where they didn't necessarily need him, so to speak, but they still took him and it didn't matter. And guess what? It turns out they actually did need him. But we see this a lot, not just with Dallas, but with other teams making picks. I mean, I guess you could look back to the Bears last year with Colston Loveland at 10. It's like, did they really need a tight end with Komet? It's like, no, he ended up being the best possible pick for him there. Sometimes, like you mentioned, when a lot of things have been addressed through trades, through free agency, and if your roster's pretty solidified, just go take the best football player on the board. And that's exactly what Dallas does here at 20. I love this pick, and I can see this working out for the Cowboys really well long term. Pittsburgh here at 21. You took Ione. I still think I'm saying the last name wrong. Olivia Vega at 14 to the rival Baltimore Ravens. That would have been my play here at 21 for the Steelers. You need to get better on the offensive line. I'm going to keep them on the offensive line here at 21. And my pick's going to be Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson, another guy we did not have going in the first round in our first mock draft, just similar of needing help in the trenches up front. You're getting the best possible offensive lineman, in my opinion, on the board here in Miller, and he goes from being out of the first round in our first mock draft to being selected in the top 25 in the 2.0 version.
Yeah, I think the only other position you could have talked yourself into is wide receiver, but they extended and traded for Pittman. So I think that kind of eliminated that. So I think anywhere on the offensive line is likely what we're going to see here.
And we talk about the Chargers, them needing help up front. Olivia Vega went to them at 22 in our first mock draft. Obviously, JP, he's not on the board here. They could have some needs in the secondary as well. A couple of different options for the Chargers and trying to rebuild this roster and help out Justin Herbert a bit more entering 2026.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel comes over here. I think there's a lot of holes. I can't believe that PFF doesn't have this listed as a weakness. Uh, I must be missing something. They need corners bad. They need corners bad. And now you're getting what I think is the best in the class all the way down here. I think Jermon McCoy makes so much sense. you kind of have the offense already figured out outside of, I guess who your true number one is. I don't think Ladd's a true number one. Keenan Allen at this point in his career certainly isn't. And Quentin Johnston's a bust. But I still think that's a formidable wide receiver duo. Plus, you get a little fun from Gadsden. The defense needs help. Jermon McCoy's a beast. I think Jermon McCoy makes sense here.
Yeah, no issues. We saw it on the defensive side of the ball that could have used some fine tuning last year. And with the offensive line, this is so weird, right? We look at last draft, we had three corners in a row in from 10 to 12. We had a big run on receivers, offensive linemen. I think we're more castaways in our first mock draft. And now you look at it, we've had a run on offensive linemen here in 2.0. And there are some guys that are on the board right now that were not around earlier on in this draft, making things a bit different in the spot. I like McCoy. I think he'll play really well if he's in a spot like Los Angeles. Pick 23 in Philly. Similar to, in a way, to Dallas in a sense of just really weird of what's on the board, what's been taken. I would have taken Lemon. If you didn't take Lemon at 20, he would have been an Eagle here at 23. I know I took Monroe Freeling earlier to LA, and I also put Cade Proctor with Detroit. I think you can make a case for either one of those guys as a tackle for Philly. They could use some help trying to figure out the future of their line up front. I don't necessarily know that's the direction they go. Caleb Lomo's the only offensive lineman left on the board, and I don't know if you can make an argument for him to go there. I don't know about AJ Brown, and that's where Omar Cooper would have been a great pick here as well, but he's kind of up in the air. I'm going to go defensive side of the ball. This guy has been all over the place on draft boards. It's going to be an edge rusher, maybe a guy who they can develop down the road. I'm going to take Keldrick Falk here out of Auburn. I truly don't know with this guy what teams are thinking. I could very easily see him fall out of the first round, but I think similar to a Monroe Freeling situation of a really raw prospect who has the potential to be great, but just needs to be put in the right situation, I think you can make that argument for Falk here at 23 with Philly.
Yeah, you're getting an elite run defender who clearly needs a lot of development on the pass rush side. The Eagles have the rotation already to let him rotate as an early down guy. They can easily take him off the field for pass rushing while still developing him, and you're getting someone who is immediately going to make a major impact against the run. Yeah, Falk. I'm with you. I have no idea what the consensus is on Falk or who's even interested in Falk. But either way, you're getting a guy who's probably the best run stopping edge in the class, and I mean, truth to God, probably a bottom 10 pass rushing edge in the draft. So it's a lot to work on, and he's I think he is the youngest guy in the draft class. He's definitely in the 10 youngest players in this draft class. So there's a lot of room for development there, and what better place than the Eagles?
24, second first round pick for Cleveland. Last time we did this, we went receiver early, lineman late. It's a good thing we went lineman early, we being you in this case, because of the run on offensive lineman later on. They get a bit more of an option now if they want to go receiver here at 24.
Yeah, I felt like they spent a lot of money on the defensive line this free agency, so I am gonna go to receiver. You think of their receivers, you got Jerry Judy, you got Jerry Judy, you got Jerry Judy. So I mean, there's
That's
there's really
about it.
not yeah, there's really not much to work with there. My opinion on Denzel Boston as I've gotten deeper into this has slowly dropped, and so has his ADP. The problem is if you bring in Concepcion, I think you're bringing in not a, I think him and Judy have different play styles, but you're bringing in a guy who's going to need to play in the slot, who's a smaller body wide receiver. So I think there's some overlap there. I still think people see Boston as a first rounder, but I kind of have his range like right around where his ADP is, like end of first, mid second. But I think Boston gives you something different than you get with Judy, and the size tools are worth taking a risk on if you're someone like Cleveland. So I'm giving him Denzel Boston.
Yeah, I think you look at, would you rather have in this case Bono in Boston or a situation like Tate and maybe a Freeling or a Blake Miller? It's really it's like option A or option B. Boston's the best guy on the board here. I'm not gonna really stray too much away from that at the receiver spot. We saw what he could do at Washington, and I think they could figure out a nice role for him in this Cleveland offense. Our Chicago Bears here at 25. A need up front, the interior defensive line, no doubt. And I think if you click who's available on the defensive line group, we have not really
Everyone.
taken a
It's
lot of
everyone.
tackles. It's pretty much everyone. But I'm not going to take a defensive tackle here. This guy is someone who I really, really like. I think you like him too. I don't know if you like him as much as me. The Bears went out and got Kobe Bryant, Jaquan Brisker, 1 year deal to Pittsburgh, Kevin Byard's a Patriot. I would love to see Emmanuel McNeil Warren in a Chicago Bears uniform. And I think that would be a fantastic pick if this is how the board shakes out at 25.
I do too. And outside of talent, with Downs and Thieneman and McNeil Warren, I think McNeil Warren is the safety who would fit Dennis Allen's scheme the best. I think that'd be the best scheme fit. I mean, if EMW's here on this with this board for the Bears in particular, I don't know. I don't think there's anyone I would take over him besides maybe
Peter
B-
Woods.
Woods, Banks, or Hunter. I would overdraft Lee Hunter, but that's just me. But
I think a lot of
even
teams are going to be scared on Banks with the foot injury again.
that and then I think on all three of the guys I just named, there's knocks I think that are going to scare him off. I think McDonald's the only one, and I don't have a first round grade on McDonald. I don't want
And he
McDonald.
might not be a scheme fit. He might not
Yeah,
completely fit what Dennis Allen wants to do.
I'm out on McDonald. The only I would consider those three, but really it would just be T.J. Parker versus McNeil Warren, and I think I would go with McNeil Warren. I mean, what a freaking guy! You're getting a 6'4" killer in the box, an absolute boomstick layer. Yeah, and like I mentioned, I think McNeil Warren would fit Dennis Allen's scheme the best, and I would be beyond stoked to get McNeil Warren at 25.
Him and Kobe Bryant as our safeties for the next, 3, 4, 5 years would be a lot of fun. We talk about getting stronger, quicker on the defensive side of the football. That's one way to do it right there in addressing your secondary. Buffalo at 26. Similar situation. A lot of people before the DJ Moore trade would have them go receiver here. I know linebacker's been a common pick. They're a team that has a lot, but still could definitely use a few different positional needs and a rarity for them having a first round pick. I know they mostly do, but their first round pick's not really in a high spot. Thankfully, it's a pretty deep defensive draft, and they too have their pick of the litter here at 26.
Yeah, I think this is a spot where we're going to see a linebacker go. You can't really depend on Matt Milano even anymore. I'm not even sure Matt Milano's there anymore, to be honest with you, off the top of my head. I need to check quickly what they did in free agency. I don't. Yep, I was going to say they did not address linebacker at all off the top of my head, and they did not. I'm going to give them what consensus has here and what a lot of people think is the second or third best linebacker, depending on where you view Reese. I'm going to give him CJ Allen. I think, you're getting a guy who a lot of people see as a top 20 player in the draft down at 26. You clearly need linebacker help, and I think this is the way to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Milano is anywhere right now. He's a free agent, so he hasn't
Okay.
even been
So
picked
there we
up.
go.
Yeah, this is a classic case of, I mean, he's not the best player on the board by any stretch, but when you have this gaping of a hole at a position on the defensive side of the football, you kind of need to act on that, especially if you're a team that's trying to win and still trying to keep a window open like Buffalo, first year of the Joe Brady era. They're going to have things clicking offensively. They need to find a way to shore up the defense as many ways as possible. They couldn't really address linebacker in free agency. They weren't financially able to do so, especially after taking on DJ Moore's contract following the trade. Classic case of desperately needing to add the best linebacker on the board. And they've passed on some pretty good defensive talent. You look at the first four names that are on our best available list right in front of you: Terrell, Howell, McDonald, and Parker. Really good guys who all could have helped them. But at the end of the day, they need to fill the biggest positional need in a spot like this. And that's definitely CJ Allen here. San Francisco at 27. I think the big look for them is they've gone one of two ways in a lot of mock drafts, either offensive tackle or edge rusher, based on how the board is shaped out. I think we had them go tackle in the last draft. I'm not totally sure. Um, they could still go here. Caleb Lomo is still on the board. But as you look at our best available, edge rushers are very much still around, as opposed to last time around where edges went pretty quickly. This guy we had going in the middle of the first round in our first mock draft, Cassius Howell is going to go here. His slide is going to stop. He'll be a Niner at the 27th pick. Remind me the name of the gentleman they took out of Ohio State last year. Completely fell flat on his face.
Georgia, Michael
Georgia,
Williams.
Georgia, Michael Williams. It was, I knew it was a high caliber school. They can't afford to do that here. I guess TJ Parker wouldn't be a bad pick either, but I think Howell's an even safer pick in knowing what he's capable of. And as mentioned, if we had him going in the teens in our last draft. He is certainly capable of being a good late first round addition and a guy who would come in, step in right away, and try to figure out whatever the defense, a defense that always gets injured as well. You can never have enough guys that can help out on the defensive side of the ball in San Francisco with how frequently everyone gets hurt.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, Michael Williams, absolute bust. If anyone rolls back the tape of our live stream of the draft, the three of us immediately said that you were drafting a guy who exactly like Keldrick Falk. Only had about 3 sacks at Georgia. You weren't getting a pass rusher at all, and it was so evident this year that they just needed someone when Bosa got hurt. And I know Bosa's coming back, but this is what his second major injury. I don't know if you can depend on him at 29 anymore. Catches how you're getting immediate pass rush with a limited run side or run help, and that's where Michael Williams steps in. You have a perfect tandem rotation there on the opposite side of Bosa. And yeah, I think Howell makes a lot of sense here.
SEC Player of the Year, 11.5 sacks for A&M. Texans at 28. I want to say Caden McDonald was the play there in the first mock draft. He's available here in the 2.0 version that we're doing. They need help on the interior of the defensive line. And once again, the board is shaken out favorably for them in this spot, JP.
Yeah, they ended up spending a lot of money on the offensive line, so that kind of put that to rest. Then you have, your question marks, or you had your question marks at running back, and they went out and got David Montgomery. They extended Daniil Hunter for 1 year, so I think that leaves a gaping hole in the defensive tackle room. Now, what is your choice? What is the kind of guy you want? I don't know. I don't. I think McDonald is the worst of the 5 guys listed here. But I'm going to give him McDonald because he's probably the best run defender, and I think that's what Houston's going to be looking for. They already have the pass rushers with Anderson and Hunter. They signed an absolute stud from the Bears in Dominique Robinson. So then
Dom Raw,
you
preseason
so
legend.
that so then you add in a pure run stopper in Caden McDonald to plug it. That lets Hunter and Anderson feast on the outside. I think the fit makes more sense than the player.
Yeah, I think defensive tackle is going to be the play, and they're just going to pray that the board falls like it has in our first 2 mock drafts of the offseason that we've done. For them in this spot, we had him going there last time. Don't have a problem with him going there at 28 as well. Chiefs back on the clock at 29. Jordan Tyson was the pick at number 9, so their second first round pick here in this draft. Wouldn't be shocked if KC trades either up or out of this entirely. They seem to have a tendency to do that at the back end of the first round historically. Edge or defensive back is the play here. They have options. I'm looking at the top 2 guys on this list, both from Clemson, Avion Terrell and TJ Parker. I guess Colton Hood from Tennessee is another guy I could consider here at 29. It's what do I think Kansas City needs more of, or what could they get better at? They could use both of these guys. I'm sure they wish they had picks 29 and 30 to take both of them. But at the end of the day, they just lost an all pro cornerback in Trent McDuffie. And I think that weighs a bit more weight than the edge rushing that they've lost. And plus, this is a pretty deep edge rushing class. I think they could grab someone later on if they really wanted to. I can't pass on Avion Terrell here at pick number 29. They get a guy in Tyson on the offensive side of the ball, and they get someone to replace McDuffie with the Rams pick here while getting extra draft capital in the future. I think this was a great trade for the Chiefs, and if they're able to get Terrell, it's that much better.
Yeah, I agree. You're getting a bigger, better. I think Avion Terrell is going to be better than McDuffie. I think McDuffie does his best work in the slot. With Terrell, you're getting a shutdown corner on the outside who is better than his brother, and I think that's a major compliment. I love Avion Terrell. DB2 for me. If you're getting them all the way down at 29 for the Chiefs, I mean, this would be a home run draft. You're leaving with Tyson and Terrell. That's 2 all pro caliber kind of guys in the future, and that would be an absolute home run.
A lot of talent still on the board here as we head to the 30th pick. And JP, this is a first timer. This was a trade. Jalen Waddle, now a Denver Bronco, multiple draft picks going back to Miami, including the 30th overall pick in the first round of this year. They could very well look to replace him right here, right now, but the receiver board is a bit thin. Or we had them go with an offensive lineman in Francis Mauigoa earlier in the first round. Do they address the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, there's a lot of their DBs are awful. They need wide receiver help. The problem is what do I see the new coach Halfley doing over there? And the the answer is I really don't know. I think they needed edge help, but they just spent a first on an edge. The problem is it's a new regime and they need help. So I don't know what they value in Chop Robinson. I don't know what they value in Kenneth Grant. It's really hard to judge. Given how the board has fallen, I'm going to give them what I believe would be the best available at this point in NFL teams' minds. I know that people see things differently, but Peter Woods, I'm going to go with Peter Woods here. I think if you put him next to Grant, that's a very formidable duo. I know Grant was not very good this year, but I think the ceiling with Peter Woods is just so unbelievable. You're getting such a good athlete for a guy that big. I really think he fits what Halfley's going to try and do there. I think corners in the cards here. I just don't see Colton Hood going in the first. And while I think Concepcion is still in play at this point in time, I just think they're going to spend their earliest second on a bigger wide receiver. I don't think Concepcion is going to quite do what they're or quite fit what they're going to try and do, like a Jeremy Bernard, a Elijah Surratt, something like that. So I'm going to give him Peter Woods.
Yeah, great talent. I think if the Bears, if McNeil Warren was off the board at 25, Bears obviously need help up front in the interior defensive line. I think this is the first guy I would want them to go after as well. Best available, so much of best available that he was my plan originally for New England at 31 before you took him. Mentioned this, a Miami team is trying to rebuild things from the ground up. They're eating that Tua salary, new coaching staff, new front office, new everything. Build it from the trenches, give this thing time, let it work. And I think Woods is a good piece to start this off with for this new group in South Beach. Pick 31 in New England. I mentioned I was going to take Peter Woods. I'm going to stick with that same position because it is so deep in terms of potential first round talent. I am going to take a defensive tackle. And while Caleb Banks is probably the better choice here, I'm in the camp of his foot injury. I'm not totally sure. I'm not sure if that's going to scare teams off, or especially a team like New England who just went to the Super Bowl last year. They're going to look for someone who can come in right away. They don't have to worry about health concerns. They need interior defensive line help. I'm going to go with Lee Hunter here out of Texas Tech. I'm unsure if we had him go in the first round last time when we did this, but I definitely think he is a guy who can either go in the back end of the first round or he'll be gone within the first 10 picks of round two. Just everything you could want up front. He's a Mike Vrabel type of player. And if you can't get a guy like Woods, I think Hunter is a good consolation prize. And as mentioned, a guy who, is ready to roll from the jump for a contending team. That's the only reason why I don't think Caleb Banks would go here is with all the injury scares. I don't think New England's going to want to take a chance at a guy who might not be ready to get rolling from day one.
Yeah, I mean, I love Lee Hunter. I got him as my DT2. The guy is a beast. He's a unit. He's cocky. He's aggressive. He's fun. This has got Vrabel written all over him. I can already see the big embraces after a game. Yeah, Lee Hunter here would be absolutely awesome.
The defending Super Bowl champions at 32. I had them take Colton Hood in our first mock draft. JP Seattle's lost quite a few pieces in free agency. That tends to happen when you win the Super Bowl. So a couple of different avenues they could go here to round out the first round of our second mock draft.
Yeah, and they lost some edge help, and what better way to rebuild it than having TJ Parker fall right into your lap at 32? This is a guy who was talked about as a top 10 player coming into the college football season. Now you're getting him all the way down at 32. I still love TJ Parker. I still have him as my edge four, and I think for good reason. Um, Consensus is lower on him. People, I think, are putting too much stock into the 2025 tape when they had a new DC who clearly didn't know what he was doing. The guy's a beast.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. Like I said, if unfortunately for Chicago, there's other needs, and we talked about this before at the record button. Our next episode, we'll probably dive more into free agency trades and some more Bears centric talk here on the Just Beavin podcast. Would be another great fit if we needed more than just an edge rusher. Here is our first round at large, picks 1 through 11, 17 through 27. And then as well, the back end. We finished this first round strong. We had 4 Clemson Tigers go in the final 11 picks, and 3 of those went in the final 4. Definitely a different looking group than what we had the first time around. Free agency and trades are going to impact that. JP, before we sign off and send these people on their way, any takeaways from the 32 picks that we just made?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. We've picked it twice, but it is my absolute favorite pick in this entire thing. Jordan Tyson to the Chiefs. It just feels like, I mean, I would be devastated as an NFL fan if that's where Jordan Tyson went because it just feels like the Chiefs' reign is never going to end. Even with a bad year, a blowout in the Super Bowl the year prior, it feels like they're right back to being the favorites to win it all if they land someone like Tyson. But the football fan in me would be overjoyed to get to see that come to fruition.
I guess one more question. If you could go back and redo a pick, if any, would you do it? And what pick would it be?
I would probably go back. Let's see, my own pick or just any pick.
Your own pick. I have one of my own that I probably would redo. So if you need to think on it, feel free. I can throw mine out there real
Yeah, you
quick.
go first.
I probably would redo the Keldrick Falk pick at 23. I didn't really know what to do with Philly. I kind of panicked, and there wasn't enough offensive linemen. Probably would have done Lomo or maybe a guy like Parker or Howell. I don't know. I think Falk's just such a weird guy. He's someone who I could see going in the first round. He probably shouldn't, and I wanted to put him on a team where he could develop, and a team like Philly made more sense. But going back, I probably wouldn't take him there.
The only one, I actually like what I did for once. The only thing I would maybe consider changing is uh, what the Cowboys did at 20. If we went back through that, I could see myself giving them C.J. Allen instead of Makai Lemon. But even so, there's always something that happens, and you're like, "What the hell did they just do?" And Makai Lemon at 20 just has one of those feels to it.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. Another great mock draft in the books. We're just less than a month out from the draft. We hope to do at least, I think we are going to plan on doing at least one more of these. We'll get
Yeah.
our schedules to work one way or another, and maybe we'll sprinkle some trades in as well. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know how we did. Let us know what you would have done differently. Make sure to check out our Instagram account, beaver.fest. We run a pretty awesome fantasy football league as well, and there's going to be some fun content coming up in the next month leading up to the NFL draft that you are not going to want to miss. Make sure to keep it all tapped in here. Like, comment, subscribe on the Just Beavin podcast, on the Beaver Fest YouTube channel, and we will catch you all next time.